Nation in Conversation, proudly brought to you by AFGRI, Monsanto, Nedbank, Senbes, Engine, Grain SA and John Deere.
Welcome to Nation in Conversation. I'm Theo Vorster. Today we're going to talk about the agriculture sector, but not about primary farming. We've got a banker, we've got a guy from a biotechnology company, we've got somebody from an equipment company, precision farming, and we've got somebody from the oil and chemical industry. But what they have in common, they're all part of the agriculture value chain and they're all part of the agriculture sector. If you have any questions, put up your hand and we'll take the question as we carry on. I want this to be a discussion, a conversation. So I'm going to introduce the guys as we've got Kobus, we've got Paul, we've got John, and we've got Antoine. These are the guys sitting here. But they're each a specialist in the industry. I'm going to start with Kobus. Kobus heads up Monsanto in South Africa. Kobus, just what is Monsanto and what's your business?
Yeah, great. Thank you too. Yeah, so Monsanto is a technology provider. We would like to see us as a yield company, a company that provides technologies that will help farmers to be more productive. A globally company, multinational, headquartered in Africa, in Kenya, and our local offices spread out throughout South Africa from cities to rural areas. Our main vision for agriculture is to produce more food with less inputs and then in general improve lives, and that is what we are very passionate about.
But your products is as much applicable to commercial farmers as it is to small-scale traditional farmers. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's a very great thing about technology. So all the technologies that we use as a company, the inputs that we provide, seed treatments, technological products, the so-called genetically enhanced technologies are scale neutral. So 1 hectare farmer will get the same benefit as a farmer with 1,000 hectare. And to be honest, the 1 hectare farmer actually get a bigger benefit by using these technologies because they can gain much more. Their incremental benefit is much more than a farmer that is on 1,000 hectares at this stage.
But it sounds to me that you will employ scientists.
Yeah, most definitely, yeah. So as you mentioned, this session we talk about secondary agriculture input providers. Gone is the days where somebody impressed me by saying that they work from 6 to 6. Because there are tools today that makes those processes much easier. If you look at in the environment of data science that we are working with, making precision recommendations, we use a lot of people that has a different skill set. Because when I started some years ago, I started in the field, and a lot of the decisions that we had to take was based on we had to do a bit of hard labor, plant many trials, and then hope for the best outcome. So we had to use sunscreen with factors 50 and plus. But nowadays, the time you spend in the field is limited because we make use of specialized software, also so-called predictive analytics, to help us to take those decisions. And there we need specialized people with a different skill set.
John, a banker, you from Nedbank.
That's right.
Why would a banker want to be in agriculture?
Well, I think that's a really good question because Nedbank has more recently, probably in the last 5 or 6 years, where we thought, and as a bank, we felt that to really get involved in the country and into the rural sort of the economy as well, we felt that if you aren't in agriculture, you're missing a big part of this country's engine, if you could put it that way. And I think, as you would know, finance probably pulls all of this together. So whether it's the tractor or the seed or the fuel, the finance is actually required. So we almost a lube in the farming business and in this value chain. So I think from a Nedbank's point of view, we felt that to get involved in the whole chain, and as you pointed out, the chain is beyond just the primary farmer. But certainly our focus is on the primary farmer and then, you know, the linkages backwards and forwards. And I think since 2008, to be honest, this was quite a turning point in our recent history in terms of agriculture. I think agriculture's taken on a different feel. I certainly feel up to 2008, it was almost a bit of a drag. The banks didn't always see it as sexy, etc. And even the farming sector itself didn't see the value, and the country as a whole didn't see the value. 2008, the financial crisis, the world turned on its head, and people started to realize that agriculture was a good place to be. The investment, the returns, the opportunities in agriculture were sometimes better than what you could get elsewhere in the equities markets, etc. So we started to see a positive influence into agriculture and in the whole sector, and that's why I feel it's such an exciting place to be. So, you know, for all of you out there, since 2008, I think we're gaining momentum, and sure, there's so much work to be done, but this is a good place to be. And what I really like about agriculture, maybe it's my personal opinion, but you know, when I go and see successful farmers, I like to feel as a banker that I've been party to that. And I've been in finance for about 25 years now. And I've seen farmers from where they started to where they are now, and we've helped them grow their dreams and achieve what they've done today. And that is just fantastic, I must admit.
There you are, from a banking perspective, finance, that input finance, finance to buy the farm, to develop the farm, but also on the trading side, on the derivative side. Antwa is from a company that they make these green tractors. You all know about them. They're just down the hall here. John Deere is one of the leading companies when it comes to mechanization, but specifically the use of technology. Antwa, if you look at the development and how a tractor has developed in the last 20 years, give us perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Theo. It's actually quite an interesting story. If you take 20 years back, a tractor was a piece of machinery that helped farmers to produce, get seed in the ground, to fertilize, to spray, and eventually to harvest the crop. That whole scenario has changed now. John Deere, we start to see ourselves more as a technology company than actually an equipment company. We just use equipment to get the technology on the farm so that we can help the farmers to produce more. These days, with input costs that's quite high, with all the changes that's taking place from a bio point of view, with all the challenges that we have, margins are becoming more and more under pressure, and we need to be better at what we're doing. That includes the way that we use equipment. So technology is being used to improve the efficiency of our equipment and the productivity of the equipment. So a tractor today is actually a computer with wheels that's being used to pull equipment.
A computer with wheels.
You can almost call it that. That's pulling equipment that's also very computerized to make sure that we do absolutely the right amount of fertilizer, right seed at the right spots, so that you try to manage the risk as good as you can, reduce your cost as good as you can, and also make sure that you increase your yield.
So that means that the person operating this entity must also have a different skill set.
Absolutely. Today, you don't just have a driver, you have an operator. In many cases, a lot of the machinery are quite automatic. So you get in a machine, you put it in line, you leave the steering wheel, and the machine operates itself. What you do is you monitor. It almost becomes like a pilot. You monitor what's happening around you, you monitor what's happening behind you with your machine, with your equipment that's being pulled. And the challenges that that operator faces differently, and the skills that he needs is differently. And I think that's also one of the things that's becoming more attractive for younger people. If you look at the cab of a tractor, it's totally different from what you saw 20 years ago. Computerized, you use technology, and you need to have a basic knowledge of that technology to be able to use it optimally.
Come to you, Paul. That tractor can't get off the ground without your stuff in there.
Absolutely.
And you guys are one of the leaders when it comes to petrochemicals to fuel from engine.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, I think just to add on to what my friend and colleague from John Deere just said, as an example, 20 years ago, the average tractor sump was probably 15 liters of oil in the sump. They changed the oil every 500 hours odd, and the tractor pushed out, as an example, 70 kilowatts. The tractors today have got half of that size, pushing out 3 times the power, and the drain interval of that oil is 5 times more. So the amount of stress and the amount of technology and the amount of, for want of a better word, science or technology that has to go into lubricants that are lubricating these sophisticated computers on wheels it's phenomenal. So we've had to keep up with the equipment builders, for want of a better word. But obviously the fuel products, the 50 ppm diesels that we've had to develop locally to meet the requirements of the equipment builders, the John Deeres and the Volvos and the MANs and the Caterpillars of the world. Those are our customers, that our products go into that technology, and we've got to make sure that we meet and exceed their requirements.
So what we've heard now is that the value chain is a lot broader than anybody thinks. It's not just, we always focus on the primary agriculture, but it's a technologically advanced sector, different skills, different opportunities, and there's careers all through the sector. Is there any questions at this point? Advice from your side, Kobus, for young people to get involved. What is your advice, and where does Monsanto position itself in terms of giving opportunities to entrants?
Yeah, so I would like to discuss two topics. One is bursaries, one is internships, and then we have a couple of interns here in the audience that started a 1-year program with us, and then over this period about 50%, so 5 out of the 10 will end up with a permanent employment with the company. Those that do not get employment are ready to take a role in another company. But what is very important is to demonstrate passion. So normally in July we'll send out a message and ask for potential interns to apply. We get close to 300 interns or students applying over a very broad category of people. But what some advice that I can give to the younger people is to specifically identify areas that you are interested in. Don't just send your CV, specify there you want a career more in a technological environment, or you want to have a role in a pathology lab, because not all of us are the same. So as you can see, we have in Monsanto we have space for the heavier or bigger built people as well, the same as in the case of my friend at John Deere. So one size does not fit all. We need to make sure that we get you as quickly as possible in the correct role, because it's very, very sad to see people that work for 20 years in a role, and then after that they will tell you that they have not enjoyed it. So make sure when you apply, be clear. But before you go for internship, you can even start the process of job shadowing. We know it's very common in medical industry where students that want to go and study medicine or become a dentist go and spend some time with a dentist, because you need to be sure that you want to spend the whole day in somebody else's mouth. So the same apply at Monsanto. So July, December holidays, contact Monsanto, ask them to give you an opportunity to go and see what we are doing. That's very important. And then we also need to talk about bursaries. So we have a lot of bursaries available, and what we see also is people do not make use of these opportunities. Monsanto has about 20 bursaries per year across many fields. So that a lot of opportunities are available, but our students, our prospect students, need to identify those opportunities. You need to read up about the companies. Know that John Deere is one of probably the best brand in agriculture today. Know what Monsanto is doing. Know that the kelp is one of their brands. The same applies to other valuable brands here. Do some homework. That is very important.
I want to take that one step further. You talk about people not giving you enough information when they apply. People not stressing exactly what they want. You said that you need to do homework. And Antoine, if we get to you, in terms of opportunities for young people in John Deere, it is one of the biggest international brands in agriculture. It is a leading brand in various ways. Young people, how should they approach if they would like an opportunity in that area?
Yeah, I think just to add on, be clear of what you want. it's very important. Job shadowing, I just want to add on to what you said. It's really one of the things that I think is not being used by young people today. Go and work. Go and spend some time with a company. Just understand what it is you actually do. I think all of us started exactly where these guys are now, and we all had this perception of what we're going to do one day, and it's going to be this fantastic work. And then you start doing it, and you actually realize that you have to work. It's not just earn something and get a. So I think I really want to add to that. If you look at the opportunities that we have, John Deere, being a global company, we have opportunities not just linked to what we are doing in sub-Saharan Africa, but throughout the world, and that ranges from highly technology-based positions like programmers, like electronic engineers, through mechanical engineering into the financing world. John Deere also owns a bank, and we provide financing, right through into marketing. You name it, we have it. We even have a medical facility as well that we operate. So there's a huge amount. So the homework portion of it's really, really important as well.
I think a point that came from these two gentlemen is that you need to find something that you are passionate about. Because if you're passionate about it, you will not work a single day in your life. It will be fun. Just think of doing something that you don't enjoy. Then it's work. If it's something that you're passionate about, and you find and you do it good enough, and people will pay you for it, it's fun. And that's a big difference. I think the second point that comes out of that is, and I can attest to that, young people, when they apply for a position, or they apply for an interview, or they apply for a bursary, or they apply for internship, sometimes you get you can see from the document that they actually didn't do their homework. They send it to everybody. They send it out. Now, why should an employer or a funder or a guy offering internships, why should they take you seriously if you send it to everybody? If you didn't go to the trouble to spend some time and do your research, and I think that is something that a lot of people miss. But let me get to the banking side, to John. If I look at the size of banks and financial institutions, surely there's opportunities for young people.
Yeah, certainly. Theo, I think if you look at a bank, and it's a bit like John Deere as well, it's multifaceted. So, agriculture, strangely enough, it's a bit like a GDP. Our contribution to the GDP as a sector is probably less than 3%. But that's very misleading. And in the banks, it's similar. We're quite small in terms of the bank and the bigger picture. But if you look at a bank, and yes, we have our specialists. At Nedbank, we've probably got 60 to 80 specialists, which agri guys, they studied agri. They might be focusing on finance. They're really specialists. But if you look at the attorneys, the financial planners, and so it goes on, the credit teams, etc., a multitude of choices. But what struck me about the previous panel and their conversations was, if you were part of a family farming setup, which I was, so I came through that family farming setup, and I'd been exposed to it, and that's what I wanted to do. Straight out of varsity, quick stint overseas, back, and I went into finance, and that was one of the jobs I was looking for, and I've been there ever since. Because agriculture doesn't really let you go. If you really got a passion for it, it holds you in. Whether you're in finance or one of the other support services, it keeps you there, and that's fantastic. But what's concerning to me is that we know that the number of commercial farmers has dropped from, let's say, 60,000 15, 20 years ago to about 30,000 currently. So if you think about it, those 30,000 farmers, yes, there's knowledge and that has been imparted through their sons and daughters, etc. So they have that natural connection. There's a wide population, another 50-odd million, which might not have had that exposure. And I think that's the trick for us, is how do we also give them the exposure to really even get a feeling whether they've got a passion for it or not. And that's where I'm a bit concerned, because I think we've got postgraduate, and we've got the universities, and I hear the private colleges and all of that. But I almost feel at a younger age, a primary school level, we should have more sort of agricultural subjects coming through. And one of the gentlemen in the panel mentioned that. Because that's how we like initiate the spark, and then they start to find out a bit more about it, you know. So I almost feel a lot of work needs to be done there. The other thing which is really exciting for me, and this is coming from the sector, it's not people looking to government, they're not looking to John Deere or anyone else like that. But recently I've seen groups of farmers which have taken the initiative, and the one area that I'm party to is in southern KZN. It's the Harry Gwala area, which is made up of about 5 farming districts: Akopo, Crichton, Donnybrook, Swartberg, Kokstad. Those farmers are recognized that the local communities, there is a lot of poverty, there's a lot of needs, there's a lot of information needs, there's a lot of need for food, you know. And those farmers as a group have got together, put a levy together per farmer, paying it in. They've employed people to work in the local community. Now, one is sure you could say it's just for food security, but the other is to spark an interest in agriculture, to change the perception of the local farmers, to maybe start small businesses. They will have the bursary schemes and so on and so forth. But those farmers have got together, put their own money in. They're not looking to government or anyone else, or to John Deere or Nedbank. Yes, those partners might well come on board, because they are sincere about this. And I think that's the way we need to change it. If we can change it in our local communities and at grassroots level, I think we'll naturally get more and more people coming through, you know. And that's aside from you can be an attorney in agriculture, and you can be a financial planner, and you can be a CA, you know.
That's almost a long-term, much more meaningful contribution to the society you work in.
Absolutely. And another good example, you know, people might not be aware of this, but the Future Farmers, which is Judy Stewart in KZN, it's come a long road. Since 2005, she's tried to attract people into the dairy industry. And that she's done, and she's been very successful. A lot of hard work, very persistent person, and she's done fantastic things. That is taking hold. And the way that they do their selection to get those people that have that passion is part of her success. So, and the way that they've now engaged with local commercial farmers, because those people that are coming through her Future Farmers program need to have the exposure on farm, you know, and that's where the commercial farmers are now coming to the party, and they need to be involved to support that, because that's in the longer term interest.
Paul, young person wanting to join Engen, your advice?
I think like the rest of the panel here, Engen is obviously a very diverse, very complex petrochemical business, focusing on the supply of diesel products, petrol, chemicals, and lubricants. But obviously, from the refining point of view, there's a very big engineering focus. And obviously, then we've got all the financial support services. So literally any career that you can think about, there's a place for you with an Engen.
Given the size and the breadth of services countrywide, all industries need fuel to run on.
Absolutely, absolutely. If they need fuel, they need lubricants, and obviously, to a greater or less extent, they need chemicals. It's amazing. Almost everything that we touch has got some component of a petrochemical, be it a polymer or be it a solvent, that's actually used in the manufacturing of that product. So we touch lives. We touch literally everybody's life in South Africa.
Any questions at this point? Yes. I'll come to you just now. There's a question there on the side. Mpumelelo. I got a young lady first up. How's that?
Good morning. My name is Bonono Mulewa, and I work for Monsanto.
Monsanto, there's one of you. Thank you very much.
So I think one of the important things, just to strengthen the point there, is that this is the one thing that we need to get out of our people is courage and candor. So to stand up and make your point.
Well done.
That's very critical of importance.
I'm going to first ask you now a question. Before you ask us a question, what was your experience since you joined Monsanto?
That's actually what I wanted to talk about.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
It's more of a comment more than a question. I see a lot of students here, and I want to say to you that the phenomenon around doing your homework is very important. Don't think that by just applying for the bursary or the internship and then getting that, because I was on the internship at Monsanto, that's not the hard part. When you get in, you maintain the consistency and the persistence of wanting to grow in the company. Sorry, I'm a bit emotional. But by doing that, you're able to grow in the industry. Then you can't go back and say, this is a very Afrikaner-like dominate. There's nothing that has a stigma. If you are saying to yourself that you have a passion, because I believe that with agriculture, it's almost like a moral judgment. You're feeding people, you're creating jobs, you are contributing to the economy. So if you're going to apply for a job, do your homework on the company, do your homework on the competitors, do your homework on the entire industry. Like they said, agriculture is a multifaceted industry. It's so diverse. You go from petrol to mechanization to biotechnology. I did agribusiness management. I know nothing about crop science, but I'm doing a course in crop science. I work for a company that spearheads biotechnology in South Africa. So I just want to emphasize that if you're going to apply for jobs, if you're going to apply for an internship, you're going to apply for a bursary, be consistent, be persistent, because then you will obviously develop yourself and develop the people around you.
Thank you very much. Before I get to your question, just want to add something. I sometimes find that young people are too focused on their ambition and forget to do the job that they need to do. The current job on your table, even if it's studying, even if it's working, even if it's an internship, even if it's doing research, that's the only predictor that an employer or a funder has on your potential. So be careful not to only focus on where you want to go, because sometimes you think people focus too much on where they want to go and forget to do their best at what's on their table. That's the only way anybody can judge you, is what's on your table. And sometimes I find people forget that. Yes. The gentleman with a...
Thank you. My name is Robin Low, and I'm currently also working for Monsanto. I'm from Gauteng. My question goes to the MD of John Deere. I've been working with smallholder farmers, and most of them, they are few whites and few blacks. So my question is, when it comes to precision farming, I've been reading articles on drones and spraying drones. Like you put your Roundup there and then it goes to the field and spray. And I personally believe that drones will attract a lot of youth into agriculture, because you don't have to carry a knapsack sprayer, you don't have to drive with a tractor with a boom spray and spray. You just digitalize it and it goes to the field and spray. And my question to you is that, John Deere, how far are you with drones? That's the first question. The second question is, will drones be accessible from the side of smallholder farmers? I'm talking about guys who are planting 80 hectares upwards. And will they be affordable to these guys?
Thank you. Great question.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on that. I honestly cannot give you all the detail on that, but I can report to you what we're busy with. And it's definitely one of the things that we are working quite passionately on at the moment, is to look at alternative usages of things like drones and other pieces of equipment, and how that's going to affect the production going forward. I think the one important thing on the second question that you have about accessibility, the one thing that we are very passionate about is that we believe not everybody should be able to own these like for instance, drones or our equipment, but they must have access to that. And what we mean by that is, if somebody cannot afford to physically buy those machines or that equipment, they must have access to a contractor or to somebody that can bring that technology to their fields and then help them with that production up to a point where they have grown to a point where they can really afford to buy that for themselves. So for us, that's very key. So,
do you foresee an Uber for John Deere's?
it's a very interesting thing to say. Because we work in sub-Saharan Africa, we have access into very interesting happenings in some other countries. And if you go to Kenya now, they have a Uber-like system that you can arrange for contractors. So they have an app on a smartphone where you can book your contractor. You will verify that he's available at a certain time, come and do the job for you. They even use mobile money, M-Pesa systems to pay those contractors, and you can all do that sitting quite a distance away from where your actual farm is. So definitely, that's on the increase in popularity, and we even starting to see some of that developing in South Africa as well.
Great question. Yours, sir.
Hello everyone, I'm Jablan from Northwest University. I'm an agricultural economics student. My question is to Monsanto. What I want to ask is that, do you guys look at only academics when it comes to recruiting your candidates? Because we have a case whereby we have students who are not good academically, but when it comes to application, they are good. And I heard you saying that we're not taking advantage of your bursaries and all those things. You'll find that, for example, you're requesting 65 to 85%. What is this? The percentage pass rate. But I cannot maintain that. What is this? That 85 to 75%. But I'm good when it comes to application. Is there a way that you guys look at to say, okay, yes, you're not good academically, but you're good when it comes to application? Is there a way that you identify those students? Because I'm speaking for my, what is this? My colleagues. You're going to be getting a lot of applications because we're doing final year. So you're going to be getting applications from us here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a place for everybody. And just maybe to give an example. So I have 4 children, and they are diverse. Same genetic pool, one wife, one father, but different personalities, different academic performance, etc. And the nice thing about this is that although they differ, there will be somewhere in agriculture, there will be a place. And so we do not always look at agriculture, academics, but what is important is consistent performance. So if a person has shown that he will get that 55 or 60% from year 1 to year 4, finish the degree in the recommended time frame, obviously that candidate shows that he will work hard. And I think when we go to university, when you have to do maths and chemistry and physics, we do not use those when you start your career. It's important to get the 50% pass rate, but it's of less important when you enter the job environment, because there it works. There's many other things that becomes important, and a degree is basically or a diploma is only the start. When you on day 1, when you start your career, then you actually start the learning process. By having gone to a college or a technicon or a university actually just help you to form a broader perspective, to know where and go and find information. So definitely, please send all those applications.
Antoine?
Just if I can maybe just add something there as well. I think one of the things that companies look at a lot is the cultural fit and just the way that you will fit into the whole business. So what I would also like to encourage you is when you're doing your homework, don't just look at job opportunities. Go and have a read about the value system of that company. Have a look at what they talk about in their culture, what their beliefs is, what their purpose is, and see how that resonates with yourself. Because when you have a discussion in any of the interviews, they're going to talk about your experience, they're going to talk about your academics, but they're also going to try to find out who are you, what's your belief, what's your value system that you have, and they will ask you questions about that. And it's important to make sure that you fit into that value system of a company, because that will determine how happy you're going to be in that business going forward. And you know, it's very important that when you're sitting in a work environment and things get tough, that you can sort of predict what the company is going to look at and how they're going to treat certain situations. So just have a look at the values and the culture of a company as well, not just at the academics.
Yeah, I think, Theo, that's a really good point, because from a banking point of view, I actually love employing young people, because they continually challenge you the whole time.
They bring energy and they bring a different perspective.
Energy and they challenge you. And in fact, if you want a strong team, then bring in young people with some sort of diversity as well. But what is key is that you need people that, and that's what you try and pick up in the interview process. It's not just about the marks. It's about the character of the person,
the
and in terms of
individual.
their attitude. Yes, because you want them to contribute to your team and to make your whole team, in terms of team culture, a better place. And that's it's not always easy to get that opportunity, but keep that in mind. That's a really important point.
Yeah, but just on young people, I had about 3 or 4 years ago, I'll come to you just now. About 3 or 4 years ago, one of the younger persons came to me and he said he would like just to give me a bit of advice. Next time I'm doing a job interview, don't ask the person how computer literate they are. They're much more literate than you are, so stop asking that question. But I think the cultural fit is important. There's a question there at the back, the lady there. I think what we do is we take that question, and is there any other questions? Let's take the questions and then we follow on that. Yes.
Okay, this it's Lebohang Buthelezi from the Northwest
Hello.
University. This question is directed more to Sir from Engine and John Deere. I'm not sure, but I kind of think that you work with other companies to give you information such as before you create your machines, you get information like how much seeds you need to put per hole. I'm not sure if you have someone working that type of job inside, and with Engine, there's information that you need from different from different companies. So my question is, if you do have those people, are you planning to move to a more vertically integrated direction, especially towards creating jobs for other individuals, since I'm doing agri-economics?
So from Engine's point of view, obviously we work with other companies from a technology point of view. We don't necessarily always own all the technology, so we do rely on additive suppliers or engineering consulting firms from a process point of view. But definitely our business partners from a point of view of additives, and obviously we do have our own R&D facilities. But yes, we do partner with other people from a technology point of view, and that's obviously very important to our business. Sometimes the levels of innovation are so high that to get that degree of specialization, you need to go outside your own organization.
Just to add, John Deere we use a mix of both. We have in-house R&D facilities, we have in-house experts that we use, but we also work with other companies to get more information. We also work a lot with our own farmers, with our clients, where we do trials and tests and so on, in conjunction with our own research department. And from that we develop. So there's definitely opportunities there. I think an interesting point is we worldwide spend about $1 million a day on R&D. So it's quite a
$1 million
big,
a day.
Yeah, it's quite a big
about
business.
13 million rand a day.
Yeah.
Depends on which day of the week.
Very important.
Any other questions? There's a question there and a question here. Let's take your question. Let's take all three of the questions and we answer them, because I think we're starting to run out of time. But yes.
Hello, I'm Pascalina from the UFS. I just want to know, with a lot of technology and all the improvements that have been told on stage today, how important is innovation in agriculture? Because I find that in school, in universities, we learn the old stuff. We learn the finance of the old type of way of doing things. How important is that new modules that create innovation or that spark young people to start thinking in an innovative manner? How important is that in school? And if it is important, what are the companies doing to try and remind this to us? We have old professors. People don't want to move, don't want change. But how important is that? Thank you very much.
Now, let's take the question here. Light blue shirt. Gentleman here. Yeah. And there was a gentleman here as well. Yeah. The gentleman with a light blue shirt and the red shirt.
And there's a guy behind the camera there.
Thank you, it's Rodney again. My last question goes to Nedbank. The question goes to you as like about smallholder farmers. What is the prerequisite for you to grant them a loan? And I'm talking about a farmer maybe who's owning 150 hectares, already producing on maybe 60, 70 hectares, but he cannot go further due to capital, or rather let me say finance. So what is the prerequisite for you to grant him a loan? And my second question is, there are also young farmers at age 23, 24, 25 who are doing 100 hectares and above. What is the interest rate do you grant that farmer? Because I personally believe that if you are still young and you don't have a good credit record, when you go for a loan, your interest rate, it goes higher. Is it the same as Nedbank?
Okay, thank you very much, gentleman with the red shirt. So innovation, funding and funding cost.
Good evening, good morning, everyone. My first, I will make a comment first to John Deere. They've been very assisting. My name is Kiahile Litsapa from Flagstop, Vuselala campus. They've been assisting us in terms of farm planning and mechanization here in Bothaville. We've been taking our students here since 2015. So, in addition from what John have already elaborated on it, is that when you say agriculture, I mean finance is an engine. I consider it as a nucleus as well. I'm working with plants. So my question to you, John, is that our great concern now in this 21st century is that our new or emerging farmers, they are very struggling to get their accessible to the funds, more especially from rural areas. Yes, we understand that people from urban areas, they some get some funding, but how accessible is funding from those people in the area, because they really struggle to that. And then the second question to you is that our students, they try to apply for funding in terms of bursaries and all that stuff, but they really have a detail. But I think here and there it comes to the point where they fail to identify which area they want to get in. And then my question to Monsanto is that technology is improving, yes, we agree to that, but we need to have a great and a good light to our new generation in agriculture. So that is a task to you to come with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question there at the back, and then we're done with the questions.
Yeah, good day again. I'm Bapelele from Pumalanga, Arkansas. My question is directed to John Deere, and I'm also going to have another question for Nedbank. I'm a farmer who's farming about 200 hectares. When we've realized that the other challenge that is faced by the young farmers is the availability of implements. So my question to you is John Deere having any strategy or any plan of providing the contractor to those small or commercial, to those small or emerging farmers who are in need of implements? And then to the Nedbank, my question is just that, are you really targeting, or your client are the commercial farmers, or you are also having a way where you say you are supporting the emerging farmers financially? And the last thing that I wanted to know is that we only see you when we go to the cities where you are, but we don't have your agents on the ground talking to us as farmers and explaining to us what offer do you offer in terms of in relation to farming industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's start. We've got a question on innovation. Then we have a funding question, question on access to funding, access to input finance, cost of funding, emerging farmers, equipment. So what I am going to do is, let's start with the innovation side, and I'm going to start with Monsanto, because I think there's various elements to innovation. Your view on the question regarding innovation?
Yeah, so we would like to see us as being one of the most innovative companies globally. So by solving various issues today, you have to be innovative. Just take, for example, the latest pest that we have in South Africa called the fall armyworm. So it's something that has come out of the northwestern part of Africa. It's now in South Africa, and it's a pest that we need to focus a lot on. And the students from the University of Northwest will know that they do a lot of work on this specific pest now. So we need to come up with innovative solutions there, for instance, not only focusing on one specific topic. It will take a lot of integrated pest management, for instance, to focus there. And then maybe something about patents, because it's also, when you are an innovative company, you register obviously patents. Those patents expire after 20 years. If you take, for instance, a crop protection product, so after 20 years of use, it expires, and then a so-called off-patent producer will start producing that. And that is then also driving the inventor or the R&D-based company to go and find those new products that can add value. So innovation always needs to lead to value add. So a lot of drivers for that to solve or provide future solutions for current problems.
Antoine, innovation, but also the equipment question.
Yeah, I think innovation is one of our four core values. So it's key to the success of John Deere. If you look at our purpose, John Deere's purpose is, we say we link to the people we're committed to people that's linked to the land. And to be that, you have to be innovative. Our innovation is not just in designing products from equipment point of view, but it's actually to how do we get that onto the farm. And that leads me a bit into the equipment question. John Deere itself does not provide the contractor services. What we do is we identify people that are already doing contracting or that's interested in doing contracting, and we train them up. We help them to become better contractors or to set up a contracting business. And through our equipment that we provide to these guys, to these contractors, we then provide the services to whoever wants those services, smaller farmers, and we even do it for bigger farmers. We have specific equipment that's designed for the smaller farm that is geared to specific practices. And we're even into precision farming for the smaller farmers as well. So yes, definitely we can help with that contracting service, but we do it through our dealers and through our development of contracting models that we have.
Funding.
Yeah, I think funding by itself is not necessarily the total solution to our challenge per se. So I think what is important is that, as a bank, we try and understand the repayment ability, and that's very important. And this is part of the second part of that question is, so who do you have access to talk about it and to understand the risks, to understand the interest rates, et cetera, et cetera. So I think financing by itself is not the solution. I think financing together with partners, whether it's in the value chain, because those partners are often able to impart some of the technology, access to market, some of the experience that's required. So the value chain itself can be very important, plus the partners of John Deere, Monsanto, Engine, whoever. Because often I feel that the solution is a partnership approach. Because there's absolutely no way that a farming business can sustain 100% finance. Okay, so that's what we understand, is where does the own equity come? And that's in those traditional family farms has been built up over generations. How do we assist farmers to get that foot up without having too much financial risk? Because pretty much the more debt you take on board, the higher your financial risk. That's it. It's a straight calculation. What banks are doing as well, we are approaching government, and we have through Vorster, and this is a collective bank. This is not a Nedbank solely, where we're saying to government, let us understand what the repayment ability is. Let's see how much debt a farming operation can sustain, and then match the grant funding to it. Because you're quite right, we are now having almost people coming through which have proved themselves, selected themselves. It's not a complete new entrant to the market. They've got some experience, whether it's on 10 hectares, 20 hectares, 50 hectares. And that is really important, is how do we then leverage that situation? And sure, we will use technology to better understand, so what has been their recent history? What have they managed to achieve in the last 2 or 3 years? And all of that information becomes critically important to how we assess a farming client. That whole issue about interest rate, it is, and this is probably not the answer you want to hear. Our interest rate is matched to the perceived risk. I'm talking about commercial banking, and I'm not talking about free money from government, maybe low interest rate land bank funding. I think that's an important part of the solution. And that's where maybe the commercial banks and some of the state enterprises need to get a bit closer together. But from a commercial point of view, we assess the client, we look at the repayment ability, and then we only look at the security. And based on that, we look at the overall risk and we match the interest rate accordingly. It does. It's the same old story. The people entering the market are going to be higher risk and they are going to attract a high interest rate. And that's the challenge for us, is how do we maybe use some of the state funding to reduce that overall funding cost?
Can I perhaps just make a comment? Because I find it very interesting and exciting that this is the questions that we're being asked. Because this is the kind of questions you want from younger people. And that is exciting. We had various discussions where the Minister of Agriculture was involved, where the Director General of Agriculture was involved, where the head of the Land Bank was involved, where the CEO of Senvest was involved, where the CEO of AFGRI was involved, all people involved in this. And the question of funding and how do you assist came up in most of these conversations. So again, it's the same as when you apply for a job or a bursary. Go and do your homework, and then when you approach the financial institutions, or the agriculture company or the land bank, the more homework you've done and the more thorough you are, the better your chance is to get advice and to get assistance. But it's a topic that was raised continuously throughout these discussions. And I think the industry acknowledges as a challenge, and the industry is trying to find solutions for it. I'm going to end up with a last question to everybody. Short, sweet, your advice to a young person entering the industry.
I think the message from my side is, and I think it's come out all week, and it's certainly come out in the panel today, is obviously it's about passion.
It's about passion.
You've got to
You
be
need to be
passionate.
passionate.
You've got to be passionate.
John?
It's a wide sector. There are opportunities from end to end. Find where you fit in, find where your niche is. And I think us as business here and the Nation in Conversation is doing a great job in that. For example, I heard that the listenership, Soweto TV, increased from initially 30,000 to over 1 million.
Incredible.
That's incredible.
It was incredible.
It's absolutely fantastic, and I think that will stimulate more debate, more questions like we've just had on finance, etc. Find your place. There is a wonderful opportunity.
Antoine?
I think a lot of things is changing in agriculture. It's becoming a real sexy industry to be in. There's a lot of innovation, there's a lot of opportunities. I think my advice is find that one that is your passion, find that one that you feel that you're going to make that difference in, and then pursue that. Get to know it, and then enjoy it.
Good, yeah. So I've heard just now that agriculture is very sexy. So traditionally, I believe my wife is very sexy. So, but agriculture is a very cool place to be. And maybe a little bit of advice to our students here is that while you study, make use of all potential opportunities. So I remember many years back when I was studying at University of Pretoria, there was additional courses offered like public speaking. So by being a good public speaker, that will also help you to do the best possible interview and also make it easier for you to get your message over. I think all of us here are not in agriculture for the money. We are in agriculture because of the passion that we have. And I think one important thing, and we have seen here, is a very good and diverse group. So let's move away from this stigma that agriculture, all the jobs are reserved to old white male people. I think the more we mention it, the more we take back one step. So let's all focus more on the future, see how we can benefit all of us in South Africa as citizens.
Well, if Kobus can make agriculture sexy and Antoine can make it sexy, you guys have got a better chance to make it sexy. This was an exciting debate. I believe that agriculture is a cool industry. I believe it's a sexy industry, and I believe it has got a variance opportunities, wide spectrum of opportunities for youngsters. From me, Theo Vorster, good day.
Nation in Conversation, proudly brought to you by AFGRI, Monsanto, Nedbank, Senbes, Engine, Grain SA, and John Deere.